You want me to say that again?
No, you just called it
There
to
you
order.
go.
I mean, go ahead. If you'd
Okay.
like, go ahead.
This meeting is held as a virtual meeting, given that the Illinois governor has declared the coronavirus pandemic a disaster. I have determined that an in-person meeting is not practical or prudent because of the disaster. I have also determined that it is not feasible due to the disaster and the disaster declaration to have a library trustee, the library director, or the library's attorney present at the library. Okay, I'm going to ask everybody if they can hear. Anne?
Yes.
Andrea?
I can hear.
Jennifer?
Yes, I can hear.
George?
Yes.
Bonnie?
Yes.
Catherine?
Yes.
All right. Pledge.
I pledge allegiance
I
Allegiance
pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United
of the
States
United States of
to
America
America and
to
to
the
the
republic
and to its republic
For which
for
is
which it
stands,
stands,
one
One
nation,
one
nation,
nation,
one nation,
under God,
under God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
liberty.
with
with
liberty and
justice
justice for all.
The
Okay.
Warren Newport Public Library District provides the community with access to information, kindles the imagination of children and adults, and supports lifelong learning. Would anyone like to speak in public comment? Okay, any correspondence? Okay, we're on the consent agenda then. Can I have, anyone want to remove anything? Okay, so can I have a motion to approve as presented?
I move that the consent agenda be approved as presented.
Second,
Bonnie. And
Andrea.
Andrea seconded.
All right, any discussion? Okay, let's have a roll call. Gina? Oh,
She's muted, I think.
Marca Pisi,
oh, that's one.
Aye.
Sutton,
Aye.
Linsdau,
Aye.
Hotsinis,
Aye.
Arnold,
Aye.
Cheng,
Aye.
Beckwith.
Aye.
Ayes have it.
Okay, we are on President's report. Questions, comments, concerns?
I added up the hours. It was 11.25 hours, Joe. Thank you for all that time.
You're welcome. My pleasure. Other trustees?
I just want to say that my kids have really been enjoying the virtual story times and the virtual bedtimes. Those are really cool.
Anyone else? Okay, we're on Ryan's report.
Yeah, I think the one thing I wanted to mention underneath this report, although, this could be library operations too. Actually, you know what? I'll save it for library operations, what I was going to say. Are there any questions about the executive director's report?
Nope. Nothing to add?
No?
I'm just looking. The only thing that really stands out is just how much our circulation is down this year, and I'm hoping that this is not a long-term trend.
That's interesting, George, because I was looking at the same thing and hoping the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, keep in mind, although our door count numbers have ticked up slightly, we're doing, maybe about a quarter of the numbers we were before the pandemic in terms of foot traffic. So, that has a lot to do with it. One of the bright spots is the virtual material circ has gone up. But yeah, and one of the things that I think we're learning too is a lot of people don't realize that we're open. I've gotten some emails from some people in our community that should have realized that we were open that didn't. So I think we need to brainstorm ways to get that message out even further. Because that's an issue when people don't realize you're open.
Was that one of the suggestions? It seems like I read that a patron said, could we do something like that to let us know?
It was.
Yeah,
Okay.
there was, and I think that's something worth looking into. And I think the only reason and I don't really think there's a local ordinance that would prevent us from putting up some kind of sign on the road saying we're open, but we could certainly look into it. And if nothing else, there we can get creative about it. We could maybe park a vehicle in the front and put a banner on it or something. But yeah, I think we need to brainstorm ways to get the word out better.
Yeah.
I will say it is a trend. It's not just, it's all libraries that are having lower circ.
Yeah, and one of the things that the data has shown too is if you look at the COVID-19 pandemic and what's happened across the country with retailers, particularly restaurants, people blamed lack of business on the lockdown, but when the things opened up, traffic was still down because people are still afraid to do things. There are still plenty of people that won't go and dine inside of a restaurant, and I think that also applies to public libraries. I think there are plenty of people that just are nervous about it. So that is a factor as well. And our numbers, talking to other colleagues, we're not unlike other libraries in terms of foot traffic and circulation. It's the same for other libraries. Not that makes us feel better, but it's not just Warren Port anymore.
Ryan, I was going to ask you if, and this is, so today during school hours, there was a lot of discussion about the most likely possibility of going back remote very shortly, since our numbers are rising. Have we, at the library, are we thinking or planning ahead and for that outcome, or?
Yeah, with our phase reopening plan, we've always said if Illinois takes a step back, we can too. So
Okay.
I think that the good thing about the experiences we had, if we needed to tomorrow to go back to the curbside model, we could do that. We're set up to do that. And one of the things, and this probably goes into the library operations update, my management team meeting tomorrow, we'll look at our plan and make sure it still makes sense, because as I'm going to show you in a second, the numbers are not trending in the right direction.
No, that's what our superintendent told us today. So, okay, just wondered. Also, I wanted to comment about public intoxication for an adult at the library. What is going on? I just don't get it.
That could be attributed to COVID, but unfortunately in public libraries, I think I've dealt with that at every public library I've worked in, from libraries in Florida to Massachusetts to here. It happens sometimes.
All right.
Bless the security team.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, any other questions?
No.
All right, operations.
Yeah, so a couple of things I wanted to mention are under library operations. First of all, I want to take a look at a couple of things. The Lake County Health Department, they sent out this press release today indicating that they're wanting schools to go back to virtual learning, because there are some schools that are doing in-person or hybrid approach in Lake County. So I'm going to share something that was part of that memo. I thought this was interesting because this is a good chart to kind of get the big picture. It's a 7-day rolling average of the incident rate of COVID-19 in Lake County per 100,000 residents. And if you just follow this, this is March, the very beginning is March 15th. If you look where the 15 is, there's this little dotted line, this gray dotted line. It's hard to see, but it says substantial community transmission.
Mm-hmm.
And we got above that in April. We had that peak. We went back down at the end of May, and we've been below that substantial community transmission rate. But as you see at the end of the graph, it has gone back up. If we look at the, let's see if this is the right place. So you can look at the different regions. So we're region 9. And if you look at region 9, this is interesting. This is the Illinois Department of Public Health website.
Ryan, I'm just seeing black on my screen.
You're not sharing that window, Ryan.
Oh, I'm sorry. Let me try again. My apologies. How's this?
Much better.
Much better.
Okay, so you can. This is a good website because you can look at Illinois by region. You can see things like the ICU bed availability. Now we share Region 9 with McHenry County, and if we scroll down and look at McHenry County, this is the total. So on that column on the right, you see the 7-day rolling average positivity rate, and it continues to creep up. For the region, we're above 7%. You scroll down a little bit, we go to Lake. We're doing better than Lake and McHenry combined, but you can kind of see it trend upward. And then if you go down a little bit further, you look at McHenry, just as a comparison, they're worse off than we are. But it just goes to I think the first graph is probably better. That chart, it shows you what's happening with the cases, and the governor is doing weekly briefings again, which we'll follow, and we'll monitor this and see what happens. And if our region takes a step back, we'll look at our phased reopening plan and take action accordingly. I think the way we're operating is safe for the community, though. I think we know now that the science is solid, that the three things we need to do is we need to have people wear masks, enforce social distancing, and wash hands. So we're going to continue those things, but obviously we'll listen to the health experts, and if we're advised that we should reconsider having the doors open, we'll take that step. Another thing that I wanted to mention to the board, there's been a lot of data that's come out, and in fact, there was a Wired article that was shared with me today. The science has come a long way in the short period of time we've been dealing with COVID-19. And one of the things that we thought was a big issue early on with COVID-19 was transmission through surfaces. So, we quarantine our books now for almost a week, and we're spending extra money on the hydrostatic cleaning, but there's more and more science that's come out that indicates that's just not the case. So, we're talking with other libraries about what we want to do, talking to Rails. Rails indicated today that the Illinois Department of Public Health, maybe as soon as tomorrow, will issue guidelines for libraries. So we may be stepping away from that long period of quarantine for our.
Frozen.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah,
So
we may
you're-
be stepping. Sorry about that. If I was frozen for a second, we may be stepping away from that long period of quarantining library materials based on the science. So I wanted to alert the board to that, and I'll forward you this Wired article because it references libraries in particular. And I think that early on, since we started doing the quarantine of library materials, was certainly the right thing to do based on the science that we knew at the time. But I think as more and more data comes out, that this is not one of the primary ways that COVID-19 is spread. In fact, the risk is extremely minimal. I'm comfortable with relaxing some of those restrictions on quarantining items. So I'll send that article to the board, and we can talk about it further. And obviously, we're listening to recommendations we're getting from Rails, and if Illinois Department of Public Health issues a recommendation, we'll certainly follow that recommendation, because I've looked at this a lot. I'm more and more convinced that the science indicates that we're while it was wise to be cautious with library materials early on, I think now we're at a point where we don't need to be quite as cautious because the danger just isn't there. And to that end, one of the things that we've talked about is the expenses of cleaning the library. And so we'll also look at not doing that hydroelectric cleaning that's so expensive weekly, which we don't have in the budget for the rest of the year anyway. And I don't think that it's really serving much of a purpose at this point based on the science. So
If we don't stop that, we're already going to be over budget, but we'd be over budget by $70,000 by the end of our fiscal year, which is, we could spend it on hoopla a lot, which seems to be going up by way a lot. Well, we're over budget. We don't want to be over budget no matter what. So I agree with you.
any questions about anything that I mentioned about the COVID rates, us watching them, about the COVID living on library surfaces? It doesn't mean that we won't still continue to clean heavily used surfaces. We will still continue to do that. But in terms of things that aren't getting a lot of touch, once again, if I think we'd all agree that if doing the extra cleaning was keeping everyone safe, then absolutely, you would want to invest in that. But if it's not really effective, then it's just one of those things that is just, kind of a waste of money. And obviously we need to, educate the staff, because we haven't had this discussion as a staff fully. And we would need to educate our community. But the thing, I know a lot of people have been frustrated with this, is that they've learned different things. At first we weren't supposed to wear a mask, and now we're supposed to wear a mask. Well, science changes. We're still learning a lot about COVID-19. So we're doing as we should, as good library information scientists, continue to review the data and adjusting accordingly based on the information that we have. So.
Any other questions? Right, audit.
Long story short, they did not get us the audit, I feel, in a timely manner for us to have time to properly review it. So we requested that they move the presentation back to the November Committee of the Whole, and they have agreed in the letter of engagement next year to give us the audit a week before the presentation to the full board. So that's where we're at. It just didn't seem fair to anyone really to try to review it as quickly as possible and then have it ready to present tonight. So that's what we're doing.
So the audit's in my hands now. Doug looked it over and gave it his blessing. And I'll look it over this weekend so that I can send it back to them. So should be in plenty of time for the committee of the whole. We won't wait for the next board meeting. And I believe we're going to write that right into the engagement letter.
Yeah, and they've already agreed that they'll do it. We'll obviously remind them and look for it when we get the engagement letter next year. So.
And last year they gave it to us on time, so it wasn't on our radar that they were going to be late. So, but the world's not going to end, and we didn't want to put the pressure on Doug to turn it. He did turn it over quickly anyway, but to rush through it, and if there was a mistake, not haste makes waste.
Right. One thing I'll mention, it doesn't really tie into this, but since I didn't mention it earlier, one of the things that Doug had been working on, and one of the reasons I didn't want to say after he got that done, let's review this audit at ASAP, was that we got our we did a series of submissions, but we submitted our final application for the CARES Act money from Lake County. So it was I think the grant total was $103,000 in the grand scheme of things that we were eligible to do. So pretty good. It doesn't mean we're going to get $103,000, mind you, but we at least put in for that. And it was a heck of a process, because as you might imagine, there were some guidelines, and then they issued new guidelines. Then they changed the portal, the way they wanted you to submit the application. So it was a real mess. So we had to pivot a lot. And yeah. So anyway, long story short, we're happy to have that behind us, and we're optimistic that maybe we'll receive some money from that effort.
So can I just ask a logistical question? We're going to put the audit on the committee of the whole, but is it urgent that we have a special meeting following to accept it, or can that just go on the regular agenda?
Regular agenda.
Okay, that's what I thought. Just wanted to check. Okay, resolution.
I think the memo in the board packet gives a nice explanation of this step in the process. Obviously, the next step next month is the actual tax levy. We don't need to do a truth and taxation hearing, because we're not going to levy over 5% of last year's tax extension. So are there any questions about this resolution?
Okay, someone want to make a motion, please? I move that resolution 2020-2021-3 to determine the estimate of funds needed for fiscal year 2020-2021 be approved as presented.
I'll second it. This is Ann.
Thank you.
Discussion? Okay, we can have a roll call, Gina.
Kautsinis,
Aye.
Falcapisi,
Aye.
Sutton,
Aye.
Linsdau,
Aye.
Cheng,
Aye.
Arnold, Beckwith.
Aye.
Ayes have it.
Okay, just to touch base on the timeline for Ryan's evaluation, his self-evaluation is due to me on Friday. And so I want to check in with you, George, that you're ready to send the survey out on the following Monday.
I still need to get the completed copy of the survey from you. But other than that, yeah. You never sent me the final one.
I'm sorry about that. Are you, oh, okay, I will do it as soon as this meeting is over.
Who are you and what have you done with Joe Beckwith?
Really? Sorry. Really? Okay,
have
I
the
will take
draft,
care
not
of
the
it.
final.
That was very good, Andrea.
Okay. All right, I'll take care of it. Anything else on that? Ryan, do you have anything on that?
It might be the downed router at George's house, actually. Maybe it wasn't your fault, Joe.
It might be what?
The downed router at George's home. I was joking. No, I don't have.
The cat might
Yeah,
have
I'll blame it on that because I
Sorry.
couldn't possibly make a mistake. Oh, dear. Okay, per capita grant.
So I do have an update. This was kind of what this is one of the things heard through the grapevine. A representative from Illinois State Library was at a Rails meeting. I wasn't at this meeting, but it was reported on a director's listserv that indeed it is that new standards for Illinois public libraries that we'll need to review, which sounds like a lot, but basically what we'll do as a staff is we'll review it and we'll bring to the board areas where we may not meet the standards. I'm pretty confident that we will have met all of these standards that are in this this new document, and it will not be a January deadline. They told us that they're not exactly sure when the deadline is going to be, but they're going to extend it probably into March. So that gives us more time to review that standards of Illinois Public Libraries document, and we or is it serving our libraries? I'm sorry, I put it in the memo. So we'll have a little extra time to do that. So in the meantime, we'll get to work on reviewing that, and it will share with the board any areas where we find we're not meeting those standards. Any questions about this?
No.
Okay, so are we on to items for next time? Wow,
Wow. What is it? 7:24?
I know. Items for next time?
Can I just confirm we decided we're going to meet on the Monday instead of the Tuesday, right? I think that's in there. So,
Yes, that's
okay.
right.
Okay.
November 2nd.
Okay.
Second, is that right?
Second.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, anyone want to speak in public forum? Any announcements other than what's on the agenda? Would like to move to adjourn.
I
This
move to adjourn.
I'll second it.
Okay, let's have a roll call, Gina. I think you're muted.
Muted, Gina.
Andrea move and Ann is second.
And Ann,
Okay, good. Okay. Sutton,
Aye.
Arnold,
Aye.
Arcapisi,
Aye.
Cheng,
Aye.
Kotsinis,
Aye.
Linsdau,
Aye.
Beckwith.
Aye.
I have it.
All right, it is 7:25.
Yay!